Hi, this is Charles with an introduction to the game Nuclear Winter 1968 by Lock and Load Games. Tonight I had a chance to play Prodigal Sons, which is a very light introduction to the game, with the Zealots versus the German troops. And I had the chance to play the German troops, and the game works off a chit draw mechanic. So what that means is units are in formations. If you look on the unit here, you'll see that it has a 2/130, and you set up those troops according to the scenario notes in kind of groups together. And then you have a cup, which has one chit or two chits or for each of the units that are in the game. And then as you play the game, you draw these cups out, these things out of the cup, and then that's the formation that's activated. Then that unit will take an activation and move across the field. Or fire, move, fire, move, or just fire if you want. There's different penalties for things that you do in the game. Taking a look at a chit, you'll see a red value, and the red value is for armor piercing, has a range of 6 and a firepower of 10. If you're shooting against soft targets or infantry, it has a firepower of 5 and a range of 4, and its defensive rating is 18, and 6 is its movement value, so it can move 6 spaces. And you can see there's a terrain chart here as you're moving across the board. It shows the different values for moving across the board. And there's also an event chit that if that's drawn out of the cup, an event happens, and it could help either side, but from my understanding, the Zealots definitely have an advantage here. The game is absolutely beautiful. I love the artwork and the map and things like that, so if you like that sort of thing, this is very, very cool. A lot of theme here. So you group your units into troops. I'm going to go ahead and set up the basic premise of what happened here and come back in just a second. So we've taken out all of our activation markers, or AMs as they're called, and we're going to put those into the cup to draw during the game. And then as the game is played, to activate each unit, we're going to pull one out of that cup, and use that chit to activate the unit. All of the German units have to come in on CC1. They can go down the road, or they can go down this way here. If they move through the forest, they have to pay extra costs for going through the forest. You can load up infantry onto APCs here to get them moved across the field faster. You also have CO chits, which go on top of one of the units. You'll notice that there is a dot, and that just means anybody in the hex with him gets a +2 to their firepower. Anybody in the adjacent unit gets a +1, and that shows the adjacent hex is the dot being the center, and then the radius marker means one person out from you. And then the extended radio range is basically 3 units out to the left, right, center, like a radius, so you're in the center of a 7 radius circle. But anybody in that area there, you can roll morale checks against that number on the bottom right and rally, things like that. So you assign those CO chits to go with one of your units. You want to make sure to protect those, because if they're damaged during the game, they'll basically reduce and go out for a turn and come back. And if he comes back as the 2 IC, which is second in charge, and you can see these numbers change also. So the objective of the scenario for the Germans is to get down to the bottom here within 8 turns and take Brinken. So the Zealot player is starting here, and the German players have to start in the top and CC1, and they can go any place from there. So the Black Hand player gets the first turn. He's basically just going to move on up and just try to get as close as he can to Weevil Shurg. So the way movement works is you can either move your full movement, which is 6 for this unit, 6 for this unit, or 7 here, or you can move half of your movement and fire, or you can fire and then move half your movement. You'll take a -2 penalty for moving and firing, but if you can get close enough, you can get a +1 or a +2 for being 1 or 2 hexes away, and that's always a plus. And each unit basically can take up to 2 hits. So the first hit is basically when a unit is shaken, and then if he takes 2 hits, he's reduced and shaken. And when you're done with your order for that movement marker, you just put a finish marker in there to show that he's finished for his turn. Now, if you draw the same unit's chit twice in a row, you basically put it back in the cup and draw the next chit. If your unit is marked finished and you draw another chit later in the turn, then he can go again, but you just can't go twice in a row. There's basically soft targets, which are infantry, and hard targets, which are tanks. And there are some huge units in the game too, which are marked by an arrow with a line up to the top of it, the one that points up. You have the commanding officers, which we talked about. And if a unit is out of range of that commanding officer, you put an out of contact marker on it. And I think I said about armored personnel carriers can carry infantry. They can move and then drop off infantry, and infantry can assault people. And you can either have the troops in the same hex. The way we marked it is the infantry on top meant that the units were out of the vehicle, and the units underneath meant the units were in the vehicle. There is self-propelled artillery in the game, which I did not play. Self-propelled aircraft, helicopters, air units, all of that, which I did not play. We did goof around with some off-board artillery, which we decided to do an event just for fun, and I got an off-board artillery, and that basically allowed me to win the game, which was really nice. But the scenario did not include events or the off-board artillery, but we just did it for fun. So stacking is limited to 2 combat units per hex, not including the CO. And the events are basically 2d6 rolled, and then down at the bottom right hand corner of the board you look up at it. So after our the way it's calculated is you take all the formations on the board. I'm sorry it's late, I just got through playing. You take all the formations on the board minus the number of players. So if you have 2 players and there's 7 formations on the board, you get 5 activations per turn. So once those 5 are drawn, you put them back in the chit, you advance the turn marker, you do the cleanup phase of removing all the finish markers, and then start over again. So as I was talking about before, if there is white on the chit, it means that at close range you can shoot +1 for armor value if you're within 3 spaces of the enemy. If you're at normal range, it's just a normal shot, and if you want to do a long range shot, you just take a -2 on your attack value. Units that start in the same hex together that are activated can also do a group fire, and there's also opportunity fire, which I didn't get into really tonight. So the combat results are basically the type of attack, armor value. For example, on this unit here, if we were attacking armor, that's in the red, so that would be a 9 plus 2d6 plus any values that we get added on for being close, or any subtractions for moving, things like that, against the unit's defense. So they can take 1 hit, they go to shaken. They take 2 hits, they go to reduced and shaken, and if they take 3 hits, they're destroyed. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to scroll through the game a little bit here and talk about what happened. So as I said before, the Zealots kind of moved up to here, and they're looking to get into this town. And these two guys were activated here, and I just moved them, just straight up move, no fire attacks or anything like that. Moved them down to the side of the board, hoping to get around here a little bit. And what I'm hoping to do is get these guys up so I can kind of have a nice defensive line and run a couple guys past them to get to the all the way down here before turn 8. So I got my Puma into the town. I've got a Tiger up here sitting, and I was hoping to shoot him, but I don't think he has quite enough to shoot. So he attacked me with his pest, and he did an assault move basically and moved his Zealots into melee with me. So he lost his melee, so he has to retreat back into his hex, and he also takes a shaken marker. So he's attacking with his other pest down below to my Puma, and he does another assault, dropping off his infantry type units, which are Zealots, into the same hex as me. He does an attack, and he fails, and he has to retreat one hex and go into a shaken status. Now the one bad thing for me was that the Zealots are automatically rallied at the beginning of each turn. I, in turn, had to roll less than the 7 or the 6 on the CO's chit here, which is a little bit cut off from your view. So if these guys were shaken, I would have to roll a 6 or less in order to rally them. So he hits my Puma. So we have activated and moved and used everybody who's available to be used in the game. We move up to turn 2. We're going to remove all the finish markers. And start over. So if a unit is eliminated, a wreck marker is placed, and that can be used as +1 cover and -1 to your movement value to move through it. So I lost my CO down at the bottom. I lost my units that were with that CO. So the CO goes off to the side of the board and is reduced to a 2IC, and he can come back to this other tank. He was with a 130, and so next turn he'll come back to that unit right there. But for right now he has to sit off for one turn. And I know it's kind of tough to tell what's going on, but basically we're firing, attacking, and moving around. Now we did draw an event out of the cup for this scenario. Events are not used, but he went ahead and let me try an event. I rolled 2d6 and I got a barrage. So I'm holding on onto that barrage, which lets me do an attack against 3 adjacent squares, and I'm going to use that later on in the game, but for right now I'm holding on to it. because that Tiger tank is in a dangerous area here. He's next to all these Z-lots, next to these guys, and these guys are going to rally easily on the next turn unless I do something about it. Which, if you look at the ability to attack infantry, you're only rolling 5s and 4s here, and their defense rating is like 13. So I roll 2d6 plus that 4 or that 5 in order to attack that. So I'm starting to think the best course of action is just run as fast as I can towards my objective. So I take my Tiger and I put him into the woods down here. Just try to buy some time. The Z-lots are wreaking havoc with my other units. And basically what's going to happen, he's just going to totally annihilate me. So he gets his one unit down here. He's pushing to get that Z-lot into town so his Z-lot can protect that town. I'm trying to get this Tiger down here, and I'm running out of units fast. So you can see the Z-lots destroying my units up here. And I'm getting surrounded. So it's getting close to the end of the game here. The only thing I have left at this point is my Tiger. So I'm running down here. I'm going to try to attack this guy. And we're up to turn 4. And fortunately for me, the first draw is the Tiger. So if the Black Hand had gotten a chance to attack me, he could have had a lot of units attacking me here. But fortunately, it was the 130 chit. So the first thing I do is decide to do my off-board artillery, and then I decide to attack the Z-lot, which is in this square. And you roll a die. I rolled a 6, and that was a direct hit. And then I roll 2d6 plus 7, which if you look at the value of the off-board artillery, you get 7. And I roll 2d6 again, and I roll 2 6s, and that was enough to eliminate that unit, therefore taking him out of my way. And then I was allowed to use my movement rating for that same unit, and I moved him into the last square here for the win for the game. It seems like there's going to be a lot of fun with this, especially when you get into the aircraft and the helicopters and things like that. I really like the game. It's a little simpler than what I'm used to. I was kind of surprised at how simple some of the mechanics are, but I really enjoyed the chit draw mechanic out of the cup. You just never know what's going to happen. The melee was interesting. It wasn't like typical melee where there's a lot of calculations and things like that. It was just pretty much a straight up die roll. Yeah, it wasn't hard. But I really liked the game, and it's got a nice theme to it. So it's tactical and all the stuff that I love in a good war game. Hope you enjoyed the demonstration, and I apologize if it was not too clear, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the game.